having the ability to ask a question of someone who has created a business way beyond what you're at right now, having the ability to connect with that individual, that's powerful.
This is TYC 3 Yellow Chairs with Spanky Moskowitz.
Yeah, I love ad zombies. Just so our audience know, I'm a customer, and I used you guys a couple of times for email copy, for like cold email outreach, and really loved it.
And I got introduced to Ad Zombie just recently, and I realized I've seen the ads on Instagram multiple times. So now I'm going to be a new customer.
And now we retarget and retarget and retarget you until you come into our tangled web of zombiedom.
Yeah, which I guess changed recently, right? With all of the current situation.
Yeah, I mean, our messages have definitely shifted. I think any business that doesn't shift some of their messaging to feel relevant to what's going on is going to feel out of touch. And so we made a pretty dramatic shift at the top of our sales pipeline right when this started around March 15th. And so we made a dramatic shift then. And then over the last few days, started adding in some of our traditional messages because it feels like the world is starting to lighten up a little bit. You know, if you follow the news, you know, Spain has started to open up a little bit. Italy is opening up a little bit. People are starting to, not en masse, but things are, look, everybody wants to get back to a normal life, whatever that is. And so as that happens, we're shifting our message again.
So it's something that you probably also do with your clients right now, because that's what it's all about. It's kind of meta because Ad Zombies is doing Ad Zombies commercials, but also in the end of the day, you're doing it for clients.
100%. And the clients, and I don't want to insult the clients that don't do it, but it's the clients that are really in touch with their audience that are making the shift or have made the shift. And clients that are not in touch, they kind of lose relevancy with their clients. And it feels awkward to have the same message you would always have during a time like this when everyone is sheltered in place. No one is where they should be. Everyone is kind of doing something very different, you know? So I think the clients that think about that, and by the way, I didn't think of this on my own. I had a conference call with the team at VaynerMedia a couple of weeks ago. There were 20 or 30 of us on that Zoom call. And we were talking about this topic. You know, if you watch TV, whether it's streaming or over the air, OTA, as you might hear in the advertising lingo, those messages from these big companies has shifted. Why? They've shifted because that's what you need to do. You need to pivot your message so that it feels relevant and current. Otherwise, you feel so out of touch.
Yeah, it's not business as usual right now.
I 100% agree. And when you go through your feed and you see these ads that are absolutely irrelevant to what's happening, you're like, this person is ignorant, and you actually don't like the brand anymore. I go on TV and I see Subaru completely changing their ad to really talking about the brave nurses and doctors, and at the very end they say, this is a slot we used to talk about cars, now we just want to be there. And you like it and you remember that.
But here's the thing, marketers that don't get this, and I'm going to just get really deep for a second on this, and not because I'm angry at them, but I'm passionate about it. Marketers that don't understand this seem to think that they're not going to get their conversion. They're not going to get their transaction. No one's going to click their buy now. They're fucking wrong. They will do it more because your message feels good to them. It resonates with them. It feels like, man, you're paying attention. And so it's really funny when you see CEOs of big companies getting on their smartphones and going, hey, we're here for you. We care about you. We're returning your premiums on your insurance company. You know, like this is changing the landscape of marketing today, because companies that wouldn't think about this a year ago are suddenly going, holy crap, these smartphones are really great because we can make ads in our homes and show people we care.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
And guess what?
Absolutely.
You're going to create new loyal customers because they're going to go, look at that. Look at what they care. They're not thinking about the technology. They're not thinking about the quality. They're thinking about the message, period.
Absolutely.
Okay, I'm
Absolutely.
done
Ken,
with,
I
I'm
want I
done with
want
my
to get
rant.
it. I want to get to the Zoom call, because one of the things I grew up learning is when you are in the market and you have the right friends in the business world, you're in touch with what's happening a lot quicker. You can ask what's going on in your market, what's going on with your company, and then you get all these feedback. What's the dynamic you've built with that Zoom call, with that 20 individual on that Zoom call that then led you into understanding you have to shift quickly?
So Nick Dio from VaynerMedia and Sasha Group led this call, and I think a couple of their creative team was on it as well. And it was really for an inner circle of people who have connection and relationship to VaynerMedia, 4Ds, other things like that. And it was to really talk about how we need to pivot our messages. So we were there to talk to one another as CEOs, as entrepreneurs, and to really talk about how the messages need to shift and pivot. We'd already done that, but one of the things that we did was we were also generating ideas in this call for one another, and helping other businesses figure out how to
Nice.
navigate. There was an ice cream shop in Florida, and I forget the story, but they had just opened up not too long ago, and business was doing great. And then all of a sudden this happened. And how do you pivot at that time? And one of the things that I did is I said, hey, here's a coupon code. Let me and my team write for you. We're going to create an ad,
Nice.
no charge. It's on
Nice.
us. I want to help you because we want to encourage them to
Nice.
do, scoop to home delivery. How do you do
Nice.
that? Right? How do you pivot your message? And so we were all in there helping each other brainstorm and idea generate and supporting one another as business owners, because at the end of the day, small, medium, or large, one owner, one person, 50, 100, 1,000, we're all in this same
Yes.
shit show together.
Yes.
And we all rise together if we help one another. But if we don't lend each other a hand, it all collapses.
I love the inner circle you brought up, because it's eye level, kind of peer to peer, helping each other. And what I want to discuss further in this episode is the difference between that peer to peer versus having a mentor that is more experienced than you. But you are part of this circle. You guys are giving each other a lot of benefits. One of the things I talk about a whole lot on this episode as well as outside is that you need to get to a level that you have that inner circle, because then when the rough time comes, your inner circle is your buddies. You get help from them. That's your
Absolutely.
community. How do you get there when somebody's starting in this entrepreneurship world, and they're 20 years old or in their 20s, and they don't have that inner circle?
No, you build that inner circle over time. And so let me kind of step back a few years to help you figure out how to navigate building that
Yes.
circle. The first thing I would do is audit your friends. And I say this a lot because I've learned to do this. If you're trying to build something remarkable, if your goal is to create something that's never been done before, and your energy and your heart and soul are going into that, and you have friends that are constantly trying to drag you to binge watch 12 seasons of a show, or don't understand why you're working so hard, and come on, let's go to the bar and get drunk, right? Those are not people who support your mission. And so what I do is I would start auditing those friends, and how that looks to everybody is going to be a little different. How it looked to me was, I didn't say, you're out of my life, I'm not talking to you anymore, go away. I just stopped engaging with them. And over time, they just kind of went away. And I would engage with people who are smarter than me, who know more than me, who have more experience than I do, and really surround myself with that type of energy. And the more you do that, the more you surround yourself with people that are smarter than you, that know you better, that care about what you're doing, the faster you're going to get there. Now, you can also, there's a couple of ways of getting this. Number one is you can reach out to people directly. I think too many people are afraid to ask directly for help from someone. And they think that person's going to be too busy, be too big for them to communicate or relate with. And I think that's just a self-limiting belief. I think that's just a doubt, a fear that's really irrational because, and I'll use Gary Vaynerchuk as an example. When my business started, this company, AdZombie, started by accident. And I tell that story over and over again because it's so, I think, valuable for people to understand. Not every business is started with a business plan and we're going to build this amazing, company. And no, it started as an accident. I helped someone in a Facebook group, which led to a discovery that there was a need, which led to this business being built, which then gave me the opportunity to build something remarkable, right? So it wasn't like in my master plan, I woke up one morning and I looked up at the sun and I went, I'm going to build AdZombie. No, it didn't work like that.
No epiphany.
No epiphany other than, holy crap, people struggle to write ad copy and emails and landing pages. Cool. All right, this is my thing. I've been doing this my entire life. So I reached out. So when the business started, March 6, 2017 is when it started. It quickly started to snowball into chaos because I am not a systems and processes guy. I don't know if you've looked around my office. This is a creative office, right? Look at my shirt, zombie. I mean, like we do things a little different here. And I was not a systems and processes guy. I'm still not. And so I reached out to Gary Vee. I sent him an email. Now, we had some context prior to that. So going back a few years, I was following him early when he was doing Wine Library TV, okay? I was probably watching his stuff when there were less than 1,000 subscribers to his YouTube channel. So I'm an OG, okay?
Nice.
And I wasn't a wine guy then. I wasn't a wine drinker per se, but I thought, man, this guy is different. His content's like he spits wine out and says it tastes like cat piss. That's so different. And so I was attracted to that in that he was raw and real. And as a New Yorker, I appreciate the occasional fucks. So, he just was very unfiltered and I liked that. And so fast forward a couple of years, there was an event going on in New York City and Dave Ramsey was hosting this event with Seth Godin and Gary Vee. And I got an invite to go to the event and met Gary face-to-face there, talked to Seth Godin there. It was a great time.
Nice.
And that was the first face-to-face interaction. And there were some emails over the years, mild, hey, saw this piece of content, really super. But back then, he wasn't Gary Vee like he is today. He was Gary Vee kind of up and coming, but he hadn't reached that status. Well, March 6, 2017, at this point, Gary Vee's got a pretty big following. And I sent him an email. And I said, I started this thing. I don't know where it's going, but here's what's happening. And it's chaos and I'm struggling. Could we grab dinner next time I'm in New York? And so I can just pick your brain. And within 5 minutes, I got an email back. And he said, hey, bro, I'm super busy, but I've got this dinner thing coming up at City Winery. Would love to have you come. He CC'd Kim Garcia, who's now since then moved to a different organization. And Kim messaged me, and next thing you know, I'm on an airplane to New York to have dinner with him. And it was me and about 30 business owners total, including my friend Rachel Peterson, who I met there. And we had dinner with Gary, and it was a private wine dinner with Gary. And we spent hours digging into our businesses and asking questions and getting questions answered. And it was one-to-one, brother. I mean, I'm here, Gary's there, and we're talking.
Yes.
And the value I got from that dinner was remarkable because during that dinner, Gary looked at me and I was wearing, I remember this, it's a pink jacket. And if you've seen any pictures of me with that pink jacket on, it's a very colorful, artistic jacket. And he looks at me and he goes, bro, you're a creative. You need an operations person. And he then told me who it should be and how I should look for this person. And that was a Thursday night, that dinner. And by Sunday night, I had narrowed down my list to 3 people. By Tuesday, I had lunch with the first one. I think it was Tuesday. And the handshake happened and the deal was done.
Wow.
And so, but having a mentor like him is super valuable because today I lean into him. I'll send him an email and I'll get back an answer. Sometimes it's 5 minutes. Sometimes it's a couple of days. It just depends on what season his business is in, how busy he is. But at the end of the day, I know that if I have a pressing question, if I need something and I don't know the answer to it, I can email Gary and he'll respond to me. And I have so much respect for him as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, for giving himself to me in that way. And so when somebody comes to me and says, hey, can you help me? Can you be a mentor for me? Would you be willing to work with me? And absolutely. Who am I to say no when a guy as busy as Gary Vaynerchuk takes the time out of his fucking day for me?
Nice.
So that's it.
I love that story. I let you go, Itay, first, but I have so many different questions that I want to dive into. Go ahead. You go ahead.
So I guess, the dream for pretty much any of us today is to have Gary as a mentor, right? That's like the ultimate mentor figure out there. I guess that it's not feasible also. You built it over a period of a few years before he was where he is right now. And my question to you is, how can I find the right mentor for me? Or do I even need to actively look for a mentor in the first place? Or that's something that happened organically, or else don't get into that actively?
I think it's different for each person. And, individually, if you're going to look for a mentor, you need to find someone that fits your personality, right? I'm a pretty out there, outgoing person. I need someone with that type of energy. It's why I'm attracted to people like Gary Vee, why I've spent time learning from Tony Robbins. I need that intensity. I'm into intensity, right? Not everybody's into that. My wife, not like that. My wife, she prefers people like Rachel Hollis, not because she's a girl, right? But because Rachel is gentler, softer, not as she's a more introverted extrovert, if that exists. But you know what I mean? I hope. So it's just different people. You have to find a person that meshes with you, that you feel right. And if that means you're following their career and their content, I get emails daily from people saying, hey, you've inspired me and thank you. And your book changed my life. And that's really humbling. I remember years ago talking to Gary about that and saying, how do you deal with that? Like, how do you deal with, people just are so grateful for what you've done, yet really you've just written a book or shared the story and they've somehow related it to their life and therefore giving you the credit for it. And he says, it's very humbling. And until I had that firsthand experience of someone rushing up to me and thanking me for writing my first book, until I had that, I didn't know what that felt like. And it felt so weird when it happened. And I can't say that I got used to it. It happens more now, but I can't say that I've gotten used to it, but I'm so humbled by it. And so when somebody comes to me and says, hey, can I pick your brain on something? Can we talk about this? Or how did you do this? And I remember when about a year and a half ago, the question started to shift from how do you write great copy to how did you build a 7-figure business in less than 2 years? Can you help me understand that? And part of it is doing what I'm doing right now. Being available to go on podcasts, on Facebook Lives, on Zooms, on name the platform, name the podcast, name the person. Even if they had an audience of 3 people, 300, 30,000, didn't matter.
I'm curious to know how it has all changed during COVID-19. Like, did you get more opportunities to get on camera and produce content, or did you have to pivot on that end? You don't have events to go to?
Yeah, so the events part sucks. I got a text from my friend Pamela. I was supposed to be in Dallas last weekend delivering a keynote. And I was so stoked to deliver this keynote. And because, so understand something about my wiring. As much as I'm an extrovert, I love being on the stage. And it's not because of an ego thing. It's not because, oh, look at me, I'm on stage. It's because I love that feeling of seeing that one person or those 2 people in the audience get it. And so for me, that's like the payment for me is watching that. And so I love that energy of being on stage and also making a difference in lots of business owners' lives.
Nice.
And so for me, not being there really sucked. and they moved the event to, I think it's in August now. And so I'll go to Dallas and deliver that keynote in August, and it's going to be different, right? The energy might be different that day. The feeling might be, who knows? But the way I've pivoted during this time is really kind of simple. It started with me working from home, and I was at home for a month with my family, but everyone was doing their school, and so our internet became unstable, and I said, all right, I have to go to my office. Now, because we're in the advertising industry, and because we work with food brands and CPG brands, we are considered a necessary industry, a necessary business. So I came to my office. This place is like a ghost town. Like, this building has usually hundreds and hundreds of people. There's nobody here. I own the building. It's just me and Rob. That's it. And
so you're in the office right now. You're not home.
No, this is my home. Do you think my wife would let me decorate my home like this? Are you kidding me? No. So I came to the office, and I am here. There's nobody else here. So I have all the bandwidth. So I've made pivots that way. But the other thing I've done is I've made myself more available to do things like this. And then I started using Gary's model of Tea with Gary V. And I was like, ooh, that's really smart. I emailed him. I'm like, hey, would you be offended if? No, of course not. Do it. And so I started doing Coffee with Ken. And then people were like, hey, that doesn't fit your personality. You really need to use your nickname. And somebody suggested Sippin' with Spanky. So Coffee with Ken became Sippin' with Spanky. And I'm doing these daily videos at 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern, and I'm multicasting it. So it's on tons of different streams. And my number one goal there is to bring value to people. And whether that's a small business owner struggling, trying to figure out how to pivot, or someone dealing with self-doubt and confidence issues. Look, we all have our own challenges and issues. I still have them. Like, we took a really shitty hit when this thing first started. Like, our monthly recurring revenue was doing this. Then COVID hit, and it's kind of like the 9/11 effect. COVID hit, and all of a sudden, business started to drop off. And, when you see your monthly recurring revenue drop like 30K, you go, holy shit, what am I going to do? But I didn't panic, because that's not in my DNA. Yeah. I just said, okay, we've got to pivot. How do we pivot? And so we started shifting our messages, and it very quickly shifted. And guess what happened? 2 weeks, we started to see the return. And now we have new customers coming in, old customers coming out. New people are constantly coming into our ecosystem. But we still, if I look at our customer database, we still have a client from our original 10 clients from when we first started in March of 2017. We still have one of those clients is still on his original plan. So it's you do pivot, you shift to fit what's going on. And for me, I've made myself way more available for clients, for one-on-one idea generation and consultation. Just, I give it because I know people are struggling and scared. And if I can help one business owner save their business by adding value to them and giving them something, my heart's full. I'm good.
And this is the time you build that relationship with your audience, not the time that you want to profit from them. Right now is the time to build the springboard for after COVID, I guess. I want to get back to the story. You mentioned ask directly, and a lot of people are not doing it. I want to share a little bit of something I did recently, and it's a smaller scale, but I went through the similar phases.
Don't minimize, Reza. Don't minimize because you just did that. See, that's it's a smaller scale. Don't minimize that. It's huge because you did it, right? The difference is that there are people who are thinking about it that won't take action. And then you did it, and now you're minimizing it. Don't minimize it.
True that. That's, I guess it's my bragging right to go about it and say it. I did 100 networking events in 100 days in a row. And I launched a product related to networking right at the 100th event. But throughout the journey, the plan changed and I pivot and I wasn't sure what I'm going to do, but it was an accountability thing for me. So I started from day one and I said, I'm going to stick to it. I'm going to go to 100 networking events no matter what happens. 60th event in, I meet a speaker at one of these events. He's a co-founder of Daily Hive, which is one of the largest digital not an agency, they're more of a media company in Canada. And I met him and I said, do you want to be in a panel discussion or speak at my 100th event? I said, yeah, sure. Send me an email. And it was as that easy. And after that, I got 3 other people, really successful local people in Vancouver. And I got coffees before and after the event. Then this relationship happened. And now we're in touch and we have that semi inner circle thing going on. And I realized so many people in the industry, they are afraid to ask. And there's so many people that are on the opposite side. They're not ready to ask. They're just asking, but they haven't done anything. Where do you think people should be before they just go and ask people like that?
Be ready. See, the problem is that people think that they're not ready. It's just like having kids, right? When I got married, my wife and I, can we handle this? Are we going to be financially set? Is this the right time? I don't know if we're ready. People need to stop worrying about being ready and just be ready. It's time. Right now is the time. And so I look at today, like right now, the things that we're going through with this whole pandemic and the economy being in turmoil. I mean, just look at oil prices, negative oil prices, because there's no place to store all the surplus. Like, that's crazy. But look at the opportunity of today. And then if you've been thinking about something, if you've been dreaming of building that business and you have this like great idea, stop letting the idea live up here. Write it down. Like, I swear to you, I mean, everything. I have ideas, they go in here. Like, everything goes here, because if it's in your head, it's going to die in your head. And then what you do is you say, okay, who do I know that is the person that can give me that answer? Who can I lean into? Who can I ask? And don't be afraid to ask, because if you don't ask, guess what's going to happen? You're never going to get that person to help you or to give you advice. But if you ask, you might just get what you're looking for. And I think people are more willing to help someone who asks. They're never willing to help someone who doesn't ask, because they don't know about you. You're invisible. So don't be afraid.
Very true.
Just ask.
So do you ask your mentor, I guess? You ask your peers.
You can ask your mentor. If you don't have a mentor and you want a mentor, ask someone who you want to have mentor you, right? There are so many people that will give of their time. There are people like, okay, we're gonna take a slight detour. Just as Ad Zombies began, my business consulting business started because of Ad Zombies growth. So suddenly I'm being asked to work with and coach business owners around the country and around different parts of the world now, where I'm dealing with business owners in different places and their challenges and struggles in their businesses. And what started as me mentoring for free has now turned into another business, another revenue stream. And it was accidental, but how did it begin? It began by someone sending me an email and me going, sure. And then if you saw my live stream this morning about self-doubt, as soon as I said sure, I'm like, oh my God, what did I say yes to? Because who am I to give someone, that information and help them with their business? Who am I? And I started going, I'm not Gary Vee. I'm not Tony Robbins. I'm not this person. I'm not that person. But you know what? I'm me, and I've got my experience. And that experience is super valuable to someone who is further back in their journey and wants to get to where I am in my business. And now my business is.
That's funny, because Reza and I were talking about just that before you joined the podcast. And let me ask you from like a practical standpoint. Okay, you said that now mentorship for you has become a business. So is it something that first, me as someone who is maybe even looking for a mentor, is it something I should be willing to pay for? Is it a service that I'm purchasing? Or what should be the ideal relationship?
The ideal relationship is what works for you. It can be both, right? So so here, I'll give it a great example. I have a very unique relationship with Gary Vee. That is, I can send him an email and I'll get answers. I have a question about something, I get answers. I can email people on his team and get answers. I'll see something that's been done on one of the videos and I'll text D-Rock and I'll go, hey, D-Rock, what did you guys do here? And then I'll give it to my videographer who's now been chatting with D-Rock, right? So you create that relationship. That's the organic. But I also spend money with Gary. How do I do that? I invest in when he did VoiceCon, when he is hosting or holding a big event, I will buy a ticket to go to that event. I subscribe to Wine Library. I subscribe to Empathy Wines, right? It's little tiny touch points of gratitude for me that say thank you. There's not enough value in the things that I do to say thank you that equal the amount of value I've gotten out of the relationship. It's very lopsided. You know, he always talks about 51-49. He wants to put in 51% to the everyone else is, you know, is at 49. So he's always over leveraged, right? Well, he's probably 80-20 with me, but I still do it, right? That's how I repay him and say thank you for that.
So it's not a transactional relationship in nature. It's just that you choose to support and I mean, wherever you
Correct.
can, subscribing to his services, purchasing tickets to it, but he doesn't ask you, okay, if you want my help, come to this and that.
No, but it's the same thing like when I chose to go to Business Mastery, to Tony Robbins Business Mastery, I paid to go to that, right? My business partner and I went, and sorry about the slamming on the desk. I realized I'm picking that up. And that was an investment. But guess what? That gave me direct access to Tony Robbins in a very intimate setting. Tony usually holds a 30,000, 40,000 person event. Business Mastery is 2,000 people. And something happened at Business Mastery that was profound. I came up with this discovery about my business in an exercise we did on day one. That discovery led to my company being mentioned every single time Business Mastery occurs now. And that mentioned that so Ad Zombies has a presence now at Business Mastery, and that investment paid for itself because every time Business Mastery occurs, we're there.
But I guess you have to do dozens or hundred of these things to have one of them pay off. You don't have a guarantee on any of that. When you went to Tony Robbins, you didn't know that would happen.
No, but I didn't go with the intent of that happening. I went with the intent of learning about how to make my business more profitable, how to streamline, how to put in some practices. What could we learn? I'm always so this is an interesting thing for me. I, at 53 years old, am doing more learning now in my life than I did when I was in school. So let me say that again, especially for you young guys, because there's a lot of young guys who are cocky and arrogant and think that they know everything. You don't know shit. And you learn more after you hit 40. And I'm learning more in my 50s, which is really weird for me to say because I feel like I'm 12. But I'm learning more now at this stage of my life than I did when I sat in a classroom. And part of it is my willingness and my desire to absorb knowledge, my willingness and desire to grow, not just my business, just to grow personally, right? I'm always looking to hack my own self. I want to become better. And so I'm spending a lot more time and money. I invest now tens of thousands of dollars a year on improving me and my business. And some of those turn into direct mentorship. Some of those give me access to people. Remember this, and this is so critical, especially if you're looking for a mentor. Proximity is power. Let me repeat that. Proximity, how close you are to a person, is power. Having the ability to ask a question of someone who has created a business way beyond what you're at right now, having the ability to connect with that individual, that's powerful. And your proximity, the closeness of that relationship is very powerful.
I want to touch on that because I see it as this circle where it goes from me doing this self-awareness and understanding what I'm about, and then applying it in a real life situation and learning from that, then talking to other people who are doing the same thing, then talk to a mentor and get back to self-awareness, and then do that circle again and again. But I want to ask you, there is this dilemma between, like in my world, I have peer-to-peer, eye-level type of advice from other people in the trenches doing the same thing I'm doing. And then there's the mentor who's done it before and they're like 20 years ahead of me. Which one would you say would help you most? Because sometimes I feel like the person in the trenches understands me better than someone who's done it 10 years ago or 20 years ago.
Both. They bring different they bring different education and different knowledge to the table. And so I take little pieces of information from each of them, right? Not every person has every answer, but I get a little bit from this person, a little bit from that person. Ooh, I need that. That's great knowledge. That's great information. And it just gets filed away.
Is it like a cloud and dirt sort of relationship? The mentor is clouds, or the dirts come from like other entrepreneurs or peers? And
you could call it a clouds and dirt relationship. For me, it's taking what you need from each of those relationships and throwing away the stuff you don't, but always make sure that you bring value back to that relationship. Don't make it one-sided. Even if the percentages are lopsided, make sure you're always giving back. Make sure you're always, jabbing, right? Gary's book, jab, 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 right hook. Make sure you're always jabbing, always give before you ask. And it can be little things. Like one of the things that I like to do as a random jab, and some of our clients have experienced this, I know I've done it for Gary, is I order custom M&Ms, and those custom M&Ms have notes from me on the M&Ms, and they're very relational. So they'll have stuff that we've talked about or stuff that makes sense in the context of the relationship. And so I send these as thank you gifts, and I send them randomly. And sometimes it just comes from a conversation I have with someone, and I'm like, wow, I got such great value out of that. Let me go into my M&M store and place a custom order. Nice. Oh, wait, their color of their business stuff is this. Let me color it this. Like when I sent Gary, I sent him New York Jets colors, right? Nice. It's the context of that stuff.
So the value is not in the M&M, because, you can get this anywhere. It's in the thoughts and the context that you have made it something unique and special, I guess.
When I came back from Mexico, do you think Gary needed a fucking case of wine from Mexico? No. But I found a wine there that I really liked. So guess what? Shipped it to New York when I was there for VoiceCon. And I said, hey, here, for you guys tonight. And they put it in their office, and it's on their wall of wine. And people, it's just giving back.
And I want to add to it in terms of intention, because I think that's a very important piece. A lot of people try to shower you with gifts, and they think they can buy you with gifts and that's not the thing. I remember going to these events. I wanted a marketing mentor in a way. And I found one lady who did her speech, and I really liked what she had to say. And I was like, I think I can get advice from her. I have this voice journal that I keep every day. In the voice journal, I played it back. I said, how can I bring her value before I have the audacity to ask her a single question? I didn't know the answer, but 2 months later, here I am. I can email her anytime, and she's happy to help me. That's a sort of a relationship you're talking about.
Yeah, I like to come to the table. You may have a question, but what can you do for that person? Right now in my daily live streams, a young guy in Romania reached out, and Vlad, and he wants to write for us, for my company. We have Romanian writers. Like actually all but 2 of our writers are English first. We have 2 writers that are not native English speakers, but their English is just remarkable. And Vlad would be the first one in Romania. But he went above and beyond, continues to go above and beyond. Today, send me a message, say, hey, can I do this for you? Can I help you with this? Now, do I want him to work for us for free? No. But his willingness to give of himself, his willingness to put it out there, shows me that this kid gets it. And I want to do everything I can to help him. Yeah. It makes me want to help him succeed. And that's the way the world should be.
Go ahead.
The only way that could work is assuming he has zero expectation for you actually hiring him, right?
He didn't think we were going to even have a conversation about it. And when I said, sure, I'll see what you got. And suddenly we're having a conversation, and I brought him onto my live stream, and we talked live. And then somebody's messaging me, hey, if you don't hire him, I will. Great. guess what? He'll wind up with a job out of this. Now, I will tell you right now, don't tell anybody else, he's going to wind up working for us. So no one else is going to grab him. But the energy that he put into it, the time, the effort, the landing page to sell himself, his willingness to be vulnerable and real, and not a 20-year-old with an attitude of, I got this. No, be humble, right? Be humble. We are all humble and grateful for what we have, or at least should be. And he came in with such humility that I'm like, how can you not love the guy just for that?
I have a question in terms of, I'm sure you are giving advice to a lot of people within your community, whether they're working for you, whether you're part of a team, or even your audience. Do you think, have you learned anything from them? And do you think your mentors have learned something from you? Do you think Gary learned something from you, or any other person that you get advice from?
That's a great question. I do believe that people get and learn from me. And I believe that Gary has picked up things from me. I think that everyone does. I think the way a relationship works is it's give and take, and both sides should always have benefit at some point. Now, there may be times when you get more benefit or need more than that other person, but when you have that imbalance and that person comes to you and says, hey, I need your help with something. How can you help me with this? Or do you have the time to help me with this? I always make sure that Gary, his team, everyone at VaynerMedia, at Sasha Group know, hey, you guys get in a bind and need overflow, my team's got your back, right? We've got your back on the overflow stuff, because I know at times they get busy in their in-house writing team. And so we are a resource for them. All they have to do is go, hey, we need you. Yeah. Boom, done. We're in. Just tell me what you need.
The reason I'm asking is because a lot of people put a mentor on a pedestal and then they feel like they're not bringing anything to the table. What's this relationship like? What am I going to do? And back to when I had this idea of how can I bring this marketing expert that I met, how can I bring her value? And I was not sure what to do. And then I reminded myself, you know what? She might be 20 years ahead of me, 20 years of experience, and she has a lot of advice to give me. But what I can do is I'm at these networking events. I have access to the market. I can bounce ideas in terms of what the people are going through, and whatever I can do in that sense. And because the intention was right, 2 months later, she's putting together a course for small businesses. She's asking me what I think of the course, because I'm more in touch with the community than she is. She's right. Busy running a business. There's always a leverage. Even a 20-year-old who's starting fresh, I feel like there's always a leverage that they can provide when in these relationships.
There's always someone who has something someone else needs. Age is just a number. It has no value or weight in the equation, right? I'm 53, you're 20, right? Whatever that number is, doesn't matter. We're equal here. There's value here, there's value here. You need this, I need this, right? It's just a back and forth. And
do you treat Gary like sometimes, when do you treat Gary eye level and when do you treat him as someone that is the expert?
I have no choice but to treat him eye level, because he always makes it that.
Nice.
And so it's always a one-to-one. But his knowledge and his depth of business structure and his success and track record speak for itself. And so when he says something, my business partner said something that really resonated with me. And that is, Gary gives you permission to do what you already know you need to do. Yeah. Right? He gives you
extra boost of confidence that
in the back of your head what you should be doing. Yeah. He just gives you that, hey, listen, you're on the right track. It's why when I sat down with him in October, and I've got the video up about that, when I said, Gary, this conversation has shifted. Should I spend time focusing on coaching people and, helping develop this business, or should I focus my energy here? And he goes, as long as your business partner doesn't have a problem with it, and Brandon was there. Yeah. Yes, because it's you can do both. It's a matter of but knowing that I'm on the right track, because we all have self-doubt. Yeah. We all don't just Like, how many times do you lay in bed at night? I know I do this, and I just sit there and I stare at the ceiling, and I'm like, okay, am I making the right move? Is this the right decision? Should I do this? Should I not do this? Right? You go through this whole litany of stuff in your head, and to have that affirmation that you're making a good decision.
And I can only imagine when you're in a position like Gary that sees this in different people, he gets used to it and he can pick the barriers. He's like, this is what is stopping you from doing what you want. You're like, wow, I didn't even see that.
100%. And he sees it so fast because he sees it so much.
Yeah.
So
muscle memory. Itay, do you want to ask a question? Have a topic you want to talk? We can have a conversation. We don't necessarily have to do an interview.
Yeah, no, I was just, it's fascinating to hear the difference between, it sounds like that Gary is on camera and Gary is off camera is kind of the same Gary to me.
100% all the time, never different.
Yeah.
I'm curious to know how in depth does he go with you when you're getting advice? Because on camera, I see if he goes in depth, he would lose some of the audience because he's giving these one-word answers. He's giving short phrases that everybody understands. But when he's talking to you, does he go in depth in that sense?
Gary can get in depth in less than like 10 seconds. I mean, because what he does is he has an experience level that he's able to peel back very quickly to get to the root cause or the root thing that you're looking for. Mm-hmm. My first conversation with him at dinner, he probably spent 15, 20 minutes talking me through that. When I was in his office back in October, we talked for, a few minutes, a couple of times throughout that conversation, but you pick up little pieces as he goes through the conversation with you, but he really gets in depth very fast because he knows exactly what the hang up is or what the challenge is. He knows. And it's just from his level of experience. Just like now, when I'm working with, I've got a client in Texas that I'm starting to understand how quickly you pick up and see patterns. I'm starting to see patterns and I go, ooh, I know this. I've seen this before. And I can say to the client, wait a second, I can see the problem here. Here's what it is. Because you see, it's that pattern recognition, as you said. And so I start to see it and I'm like, oh, I understand this now. Now I know why he's so fast to answer, because once you've seen that a few times, that muscle memory kicks in and it's just like, boom, there's your answer.
Nice. I had a debate with my uncle a week ago, and I want to bring it up and see your thoughts on it. There are these two schools of thought. Now that we are exposed to all these social media, we're under the pressure that we want to build this personal brand. We want to get in front of a camera, put the content out there. And then my uncle, being the old school, he was like, you don't build your personal brand. You do what your business, whatever you want to do in life. And that makes it a personal brand. You don't have to actively do anything. But then there's this pressure that, you want to show the world what you're up to and you want to build a name for yourself. And that also relates to mentorship, because a lot of times you don't do anything and you expect to have a mentor. You just can't. You have to build something and then ask. And there's this dilemma of the more successful you are, the more access you get to better people and better communities. Is that the case you find?
So, wow, this is a multifaceted question. So
Yes.
let's start with the building a personal brand. Personal brand is reputation, right? Personal brand is, think about what big brands do, right? They market and sell and put on a pedestal their product or service, right? And you get to know about it. And over time, they build a great reputation and history with their customers, and people love them and people look up to them. And then suddenly over time, the name of that brand becomes instantly recallable. And so building your personal brand, while I agree with you, using social media helps you amplify it, I also agree with your uncle. Mm-hmm. Do nothing and it'll grow over time. Well, yes and no. What I do is now I follow Gary's blueprint of documenting. I document. We film like right now there's a camera rolling while we're doing this, even though this is being recorded here. It's being documented, it's being filmed. There's a microphone under my shirt, right? Document, because what that allows you to do is run your day as you normally would. You're running your business, you're doing what you do, and it's all being filmed so you don't miss these incredible moments of value for other people, not for you. And then you put that content out there. And that content of documenting allows you to very easily navigate your business without losing focus on your business, because you're focusing on producing something. You're not looking at the camera, right? If I did this, I'd be looking at the camera all day. No, I just look to have this conversation. The camera's doing its thing. You and I are doing our thing, but there's value in this content, right? You guys are doing this for a reason. We're going to take this content and put it out there, and other people are going to see it. And guess what? Your audience is X big. My audience is X big. And if two people from your audience see this and get value, and two people from my audience see this and get value, and then it pays forward, wow, the world changes like that. So putting it out there, I think, is super valuable. Now, I lost the second part of your question because I'm 53.
So that's the second part was about getting into circles or access these mentors. There is this idea. So the reason I blended the two questions was, one way I got this dilemma. One way is not doing social media, just head down, do the business, and wait till the business is successful. Then my talent shows, and then I have and then I emerge like whatever the CEO of that company, and then I get access to people. I just feel like when I do social media, I can access people quicker, because when I send that email, the person goes to my profile and instantly knows what I'm doing. And they relate to that, and they continue, and I just have more leverage doing that. So it's my second half of the question was all about mentorship and accessing such mentors. It feels like the more successful you are, the upper on the ladder, you have more access. And then there are a bunch of people sitting in their house and they're like, I don't have the access because I don't have the business. So I don't have.
You don't have the access because you're not doing shit. That's why. Access is not a right. It's a privilege. It's something that over time you earn and you build and you ask for it. When you do nothing and you say, well, I don't have access to that person, or this person's got it. Look, he's built this business. That's why he can talk to this person. Bullshit. My business wasn't anything when I started it. It was nothing. Like, we had like under $100,000 in sales when I had dinner with Gary. Like, so the context of having access, the more you document, the easier the access becomes, because people want to talk to you. They want to make themselves available. They want to see what you're doing, spread the word of what they're doing. So yes, access does become easier, but people aren't beating down my door to have conversations with me. If I wanted to talk to Brendan Bouchard on a podcast, he's not going to go, hey, Spanky, can I be on your podcast? No. But if I were to reach out to him, yes, going to my content now, if his team were to go, who is this dope? They go, oh, all right, wait a second. This might be a good fit, right? He's doing this stuff. This is
and what I like about it is, in an instant, people can tune in to see this. Who is this guy? Instead of being just a name or a title, there's depth to who this person is and what he does. And the community, the aggregate of the community, are approving him. So, for example, the person is a startup, whatever, advisor or whatever, CEO, and then the community coming through the comments, you get the instant review of who the person is, and should I respond to that email or not.
And remember this, because this is so critical. When you first start out, give until your fucking head hurts. Because going on podcasts, doing interviews with people, inviting people to come on your podcast when you've got nobody watching your shit, nobody listening to it, it's really humbling to ask people to join you when you're at zero. And you go, wow, this sucks. This doesn't feel good. But guess what? When you get that first guest, it feels great. When I interviewed Daniel Pink from the author of When, I reached out to him on LinkedIn. I'm like, dude, I love this book. I've read it. I've gifted it to every one of my team members. It's changed the way I think and operate. I want to have you on my podcast. I want to have you on TYC. Join me. And he's like, absolutely.
Nice.
He didn't look up my profile to see who am I, is there value in it. He just said yes. Now,
nice.
I have a following. I have some value, and I'm sharing the fact that I love this book, which is going to get him more book sales. At the end of the day, I want to bring value for people.
Nice.
But even if you're at zero, make yourself available or invite people onto your podcast. Whoever, like if you're watching this, if you can hear me and you haven't started a podcast, a vlog, doing daily things with your phone that puts yourself out there, you need to start, because people aren't going to find you if you're invisible.
For those who don't have a visual, he just walked out on us.
And
right?
one of the key pieces of practical advice you gave me a few months ago, I think we chatted on Facebook Messenger, and I saw one of your videos or keynote where you bring a brilliant tip on how to create long blog posts, and basically you don't write all of that, you speak that. And It was such a haha moment for me. It was like, okay, now I get how people are writing these huge blog posts.
Right, because for me, if I were to sit there and type it, it's going to take me a long time. And even as someone who's a storyteller and a writer, as you can tell, my ability to talk is way faster, right? If I had to type this whole thing, holy shit, this would be 4 hours.
Exactly.
But my ability to speak it and then go in and edit it so it doesn't sound like spoken word, but it's meant for written, that's easy.
Not only speaking that, so what Ken does, he documents, and then he put his phone on the video recording, so he has the transcript of it. So it's a double thing. He has the video, then he is making the words out of it. And
so cool.
Yep. And I have all these little apps. I'm like, why are my AirPods trying to connect? I have all these apps that allow me to very easily do all the things I need to do. And one of them even transcribes into written words. So there's a lot of different ways you can do it. Just think outside of the box.
And that reminded me of something I do. I record voice journals. So I'm bad at writing and I'm bad at reading. So I rather just have the phone and I let the thoughts loose. And I have my developers suggesting that maybe we should make a little search engine for all these 200 voice memos that you have. And then we can pick pieces and then plug it into the content. I was like,
Otter,
this is amazing.
They're going to get another plug from me. Otter AI, OTTER.ai, Otter AI. That app has revolutionized the way we communicate in my business, the way we take memos, because it not only records the audio, it transcribes the words. It recognizes if you're in a room with 3 different speakers, who is speaking. And as soon as you tag speaker 1 as Ken, it now knows that anytime that voice is heard, that's Ken. Right? So think about how easy it is for artificial intelligence to do this for us. And now you don't have an excuse. Well, I don't have the time to write. I don't have the time to No, you do it
24/7 producing content. You're talking instead of redoing it in front of a camera. You're just doing it nonstop.
Right. This is your content, right? You guys are having me on your thing, but now I've got a copy of it here.
Nice.
You've got it there. The transcription of this will occur automatically using Temi. That's another tool we use to transcribe stuff. And so it just happens very quickly. Since
you're going to reshare these pieces of content, I'd like to give you the reason we are called 100 Podcasts. It might resonate with you. The number 100 came from me doing 100 events in 100 days. That number 100 is accountability for me personally, because I stick to doing one thing 100 executive, in a row, and then without any expectation what comes out of it. And Itay and I had this discussion. We'll do 100 episodes around human relationships and connections in businesses with no expectation what comes out of it. And that number 100 means accountability. Right. You put yourself out there and you go, I'm committed to this. And what happens is remarkable. It's just like when I started doing the morning videos, I'm like, all right, I did it. And then I got up to episode 3 and I'm like, is anybody watching this shit? Should I still do it? Well, I said I was going to do it. So therefore I'm accountable for doing it. Yeah. And like you feel shitty if you don't, because you committed to this. And so I also love the accountability of doing things on a platform that's super public. Why?
if I don't do it, if I don't follow up, if I don't do what I say I'm going to do, people are going to
People,
hammer me.
people.
And so it's that accountability of doing it in a public forum that also, it's not added pressure, but like, I don't want to disappoint someone because I said I was going to do it and now I'm not doing it. That's crap.
Imagine me every time I went to a room at 90th event or whatever, people were like, what event is this? Are you going to make it? Are you going to do the 100? So it's accountability. People are,
And you start checking off the box. That's number one.
yes,
And it's interesting. You don't feel the pattern of it until you're about 10 to 15
absolutely.
things in. And then
Absolutely.
suddenly you go, oh, this is like pretty easy. It's pretty normal.
Yes.
Like I had today, before I went on my live, I had a stomach ache. I was stressed because I was talking about something that obviously people have been asking me about, that, you know, how to overcome self-doubt. And I was like, I had that self-doubt. Who am I? Why should I do this? And so I found myself driving today and I'm like, God, my stomach hurts. Why? Why am I so stressed over this? And I do this pretty regularly, getting on camera, so I'm not uncomfortable with it.
Yeah.
But it's okay to feel that way as long as you push through it and go, all right, I'm going to do this because it's going to add value. And it holds me accountable to my mission of doing it every day.
Absolutely.
I love it. I love it. Cool. I think we're reaching the 1 hour mark, but I have like a million more questions. So maybe we should have you again on the second half.
Episode 2.
Yeah, on the second half after we cross the 50th podcast, and we can continue from a different perspective 1 year later. We committed to this 2-year challenge, so I'm sure that Reza also have a million more questions to ask that are not necessarily mentor related. We kind of deviated here and there, but
so get a good look right now at my hairline because it's going to look different. I guarantee you it's going to look worse, not better. And so when I come back, my hair definitely will not have made a comeback.
All right. We have that to look forward to. So Ken, thank you very much again for being a guest on our 100 podcast. Again, Ken, the CEO of Ad Zombies, which I extremely recommend, especially now, to adapting your business narrative, copywriting, and whatnot. And yeah, great having you, Ken. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys, and I appreciate
Thank you,
both
Ken.
of you, and I appreciate you having me on today. I really do mean that. Thank you.